Can Harry Kane, I want to go to Patrick first on this, step into the GOAT conversation without adding the silverware? Does he have to add silverware to become one of the greatest players in Premier League history in terms of legacy?
When you say legacy, for me, Harry Kane is already a GOAT. And I know some people might think this as well, but the guy's already a GOAT. In terms of the scoring, he's third on the list already? And he's still got at least 4 or 5 years left in him. He should break the Premier League all-time record. If you look at what he's achieved internationally, in the Champions League, in terms of the goal record in the Premier League, the most away goals in Premier League history, the guy's already a GOAT. When you look at what he's done as a striker, he's up there with all of them. The only thing, if you add context to it, he plays for Tottenham. The Tottenham team have never been as stacked as all the other guys who play for teams where they've had world-class players in every position all around them. So, of course, it's going to be harder to win trophies. Should he have won a trophy by now? Yes, he should have, considering all the finals that we've been in. And that is the difference between him and some of the other players, where they drag maybe a poorer team across the line in one of those games at least. But if you look at him in terms of the type of goals he scored, how long he's been doing it at this level, so 7, 8 years, 20 plus goals a season, ridiculous numbers in the Champions League, ridiculous numbers for England. He's already got a World Cup Golden Boot. How is he not a GOAT? He is. He's up there with the best of them in terms of scoring ability. He is. It's just that he plays.
It's one of them ones where for me, you have to define GOAT. You have to define GOAT because
greatest of all time, one of the greatest of all time.
Allow it, man. Allow it.
He's
not
up there.
I did that. No,
because I would say, what I would say is, but what I'd say is, world class. I'll have you call him world class because as a striker, world class, he is undeniably. But GOAT, greatest of all time, bro. Come on. Greatest of all time. Man.
Imagine if he gets the Premier League all-time scoring record.
That don't matter though.
Yeah?
How
can you not be one of the greatest if you've got that? And if you're third already right now at 29, is that not a valid point?
It's because of exactly what you said. Like you said, he hasn't, in all the finals that you guys have been in, he hasn't dragged his team over the line. You know, he also hasn't played at the top level consistently and been the difference maker in those situations as well. Like, I do think that really does matter because the greatest of all time, those players, the Messis, the Ronaldos, those types of players have been on the biggest stage and they've made it happen in the moments that really matter. And I think that's all that he's missing. That's it. Now, if you guys get to a Champions League final and he drags Tottenham over the line and you guys win, then automatically we start looking at him differently. Then you can start putting him in that category. But he's 100% world class, like Daps has already said. But the greatest of all time is like such a small category of players that you can't just let somebody in there because they score a lot of goals. And a lot of those were like, there's not really a single one in a moment that really, really mattered for Spurs. And he hasn't left. He hasn't left and went to another team. So he's put himself in this position. He signed the contract and there's just, I mean, he's had opportunities. Like realistically, if we're honest, he should be at Man City right now doing what Haaland is doing, potentially winning Champions League, potentially winning Premier League. So I think because he's had the opportunities and he didn't take them, and then he's not dragging Tottenham over the line, you can't give it to him, even though he's world class. He's just literally that level below, I think. Even though he's exceptional.
Can I just add on there quickly? So I agree. Like the goal scoring records that Harry Kane has got is brilliant. He is arguably the greatest finisher the Premier League has ever had. And I think that's, and some would say he is, some would say he's on his way to being, but he's there or thereabouts. But there's a few questions I would ask. Can you tell me about, and this isn't a trick question, it's how many goals has Harry Kane scored in those high-pressured seasons where his team's been in a title race? How many goals has he scored in those high-pressure games in those title-chasing seasons?
Are you asking me, or are you just
No, sorry, I need to make my point. Sorry, like it's a little bit rhetorical, and the reason I say that is this: Thierry Henry, Sergio Aguero, Wayne Rooney. I'm going to pick those three players out. You could throw Shearer into that as well. He did it once. Those guys delivered in seasons where draws were seen as defeats, where they go into Rooney went into a Manchester derby where it was neck and neck, scored what's been voted for the greatest goal of all time, and then him and the team saw it out. Harry Kane has never, every time Harry Kane's been in a high pressured situation of that magnitude, so big semis, big finals, and the one time they've been in a title race, he hasn't delivered. So I think that the goals that Aguero, the goals that Mo Salah, the goals that Thierry Henry, the goals that Aguero, the goals that Eric Cantona scored in tight, high pressured title races for their teams, they count for a little bit more. Those clutch moments. Equally, someone said to me yesterday, Kane's already surpassed Wayne Rooney. He might have done in terms of goal scoring record. I think technically as footballers, there's a debate. But talk to me about Harry Kane's goals in semi-finals and finals of Champions Leagues, goals in cup finals. Talk to me about the Wayne Rooney's the only player in the history of the FA Cup to have 2 man of the match performances in FA Cup finals. So for me, those elements is what's missing from Harry Kane's career. Every other person in the GOAT conversation as an attacker, the Henrys, Agueros, potentially Mo Salah, Wayne Rooney, they've all got brilliant records, stats, outputs, and everything else. And they've got great moments, but they've done something that Harry Kane hasn't even looked at yet. And I don't think he can be included in that group without producing in those environments, because those environments are what really matters. If you're the best sprinter in the world, but every time you go to a world championship or the Olympics, you bottle it and lose, you're not the greatest sprinter in the world, are you? Like, I think you have to deliver. And I haven't seen that enough from Harry Kane yet. And he's good enough to. And I don't like this excuse that he's at Tottenham. As Jess said, he chose to be there. Harry Kane could have left whenever he wanted to, and he's made that decision to stay. So it's not an excuse. It's the path he decided to take. If Wayne Rooney went, nah, I ain't leaving Man United, I'm staying at Everton, he wouldn't be as decorated. Like, that's on him for me. But for me, I think calling him a GOAT right now as legacy is wrong.
Do you know what it is, Terry? That when you look at numbers, right, you're spot on with everything you said, because with Aguero, if you look at his numbers, goals per game, right, is I think it's the best in the Premier League. I think, right? But he didn't stay here long enough to break the record. Whereas Kane is going to be here long enough to break the record. But there will always be Chelsea fans that will say to me about Aguero, although Premier League greatest of all time conversation, but then they'll go, yeah, but Drogba scored clutch goals in the Champions League. And then it's like, I have to back out the argument there. It's like, okay, well, if we're talking Premier League, cool. And I think you're spot on with Kane that it's, yes, as a goal scorer, he definitely 100% has that, but GOAT is a level above, world class, isn't it? GOAT is, you can change a whole game. Like, I spoke about Messi the other day with PSG. Messi might not be having the best season, but Messi quite easily could pop up this season in a Champions League semi-final or a Champions League final or in a World Cup final and do something that only Messi can do that will win his World Cup that he's missing, or another Champions League. And that's the difference.
Yeah, I get that.
Can Kane do that?
I think Harry Kane's amazing. I've spoke about him being one of the best strikers in the world since I've been on social media. But I draw the line at legend because, and what I'm hearing a lot of in the last 2 or 3 years, and I've only really heard this recently from Spurs fans and Liverpool fans that ride out for Gerrard, where they say winning trophies isn't important. And then I just sit there and think, so for the first time in football history, the trophies that players lead their teams to winning are now suddenly being disregarded. And we're the only sport we do that in, because I don't know, there's always exceptions that maybe prove the rule, but generally the greatest ever baseball players, basketball players, NFL players, boxers, MMA fighters, tennis players have won the pinnacle trophies within their sport. And I think that's just my take. And no one is the greatest or one of the greatest without doing it. You don't have there's no one that we call the greatest heavyweight of all time who hasn't won world titles and hasn't been in those. And even fighters that have been world champions but haven't really been tested by other great fighters, we don't look at as GOATs just because they were world champions. And that's what that Kane needs to add. Like, I wanted to get your take on it, Kaz. Like, do you feel like winning league titles, Champions Leagues, FA Cups, do you think you need these on your CV to be in greatness categories, or can it come down to purely footballing ability and your statistical output?
Well, then you could point your finger to Alan Shearer then, isn't it? He's not really a GOAT, is he? He's the GOAT of the Premier League because of the goal scoring thing, but he's not the GOAT of world football. Do you get, if that makes sense? Like, he'll go down as one of the best number 9s in Premier League history of all time, maybe arguably one of the best finishers ever, but in the GOAT category, yeah, you do need to win titles. Of course you do. Of course you do. It's all about legacy. It's what you can look back upon, see what you won in the in your lifetime at whatever club you're at. When I think of GOATs, I think of players like R9, Ronaldinho, Zidane, and now Suarez, like all these types of players, Drogba even, because of he might not have done it loads of times in the Prem in terms of consistently goal scoring, but the clutch goals, what he's won them, drag him over the line, immense player. And that is a player I'd be scared of. Kane's but the thing is, what separates Kane a little bit from the rest is that he's not just a great goal scorer, but he can assist, and his brain thinks differently to other number nines. He's complete in my eyes. If he's just to win somehow a Premier League, World Cup or something, we're having a different conversation now.
Can I ask you guys a question? If he wins maybe a Carabao and an FA Cup, does he then become a GOAT? Or is it only a Prem and a Champions League? Where do you draw the line?
It depends on what is his contribution to that as well. Like, I think does he drag his team over the line? Does he score the winning goal? Like, what is he doing to contribute to those conversations and to those trophies? I don't think Kane has to do much for people to change their mind. I don't think he needs 3-4 Premier Leagues. I don't think he needs more than a couple of trophies, because the guy is that close. Like, I think that's the thing, is like Spurs fans, not you, Patrick, but they get a little bit defensive because it's like, oh, well, why can't people just recognize his greatness? Everybody does. I've never met a single person that doesn't think Kane is excellent. It's just, he's just that close. It really could just be a Premier League or a couple of, FA Cups. Yeah. I really don't, like, for me, he wouldn't need that much.
I think it's got to be a major trophy. It's got to be a major trophy.
Yeah.
It's got to be
okay.
I think it has. But equally, I remember every fan base when Bruno went through that 2-year period of scoring and assisting. Like, Bruno holds the record. He's the highest goal scoring midfielder across all competitions, I think, ever in the history of English football in terms of across a whole season. But he didn't win a trophy. So it's a good little achievement, but there's no trophy there. It's not the greatest midfield. So I wouldn't call it the greatest midfield performing season of all time, just because he scored more goals than any other midfielder in the history of English football in a singular season. And when I look at my own club, I don't consider Ruud van Nistelrooy a legend. He won 1 league title. So Bruno, Rashford, they're at the club now. Sancho that's joined, Casemiro's come in. These guys don't get to be even uttered as legends at Man United until they've won, for me, at least 3 Prems and the Champions League. If you ain't done that, I'm not inducted.